So it's really good to see so many people here today. It's about double the size of the amount of people we had when we first started the group. So there's a lot of new faces here, so hopefully we'll get a chance to speak to you at the end of the meeting. In case you're not sure who everybody is, up here myself, Keith Ferguson, is the chairman, Sandy Rea to my left, who is the vice chairman, and to my right, Sharon McCaskey, who's the honorary secretary. A very quick look at the agenda. We split it into two parts, a formal section and a debate section. And when I say debates, get people's thoughts and ideas. We'll try and keep the formal part to 45 minutes. And then hopefully the debate section for an hour, and then if possible we'll leave 15 minutes at the end, maybe people just to circulate the network and introduce themselves. So we'll try and keep to that timetable. So the first thing that's on the agenda is the chairman's annual report. That's down to me. I was working with Cafe Football, and the contract ended in August 2012. And Gary Cleland, who's not here today, stepped in as chairman and asked me to take on that role. And for me, it was a privilege and a pleasure to take this on, because I was keen to drive and push forward changes in an effort to improve accessible facilities in Scotland for disabled football fans, and the experience of going to matches and make sure that we can get as many disabled fans into the stadiums as possible. This is our first AGM, and I think we should all accept that this group, the Sdsa, is still in its infancy. It's still on a learning curve, and we might not get everything right at first, and we might not get everything right today, but we'll learn as we move forward. And next year, when we have an AGM, we'll be able to see how more professional we've become, how more organised we've become, and how better the group is operating. Joyce Cook, who's the director of Cafe Football and also is the chairman of NADS, which is now called the Level Playing Field, which is the English version of this, told me once that setting up disabled supporters associations in England and getting things done was a journey, with twists and turns and highs and low points. And they came across lots of difficulties, lots of prejudices as they moved forward. So it took them time. And as they travelled along this journey, as they called it, they always had the belief that empowering disabled fans to organise themselves, get club recognition and awareness was the right model and the way forward. And I firmly believe this is also very valid for Scotland, that if we have contact with the clubs, we are organised at local and national level, we will make changes, rather than individuals trying to do things themselves. But since since August 2012, we have had a lot of successes, and sometimes it's little things that make all the difference. I tried to list, I came up with about a dozen items, and they're not in any particular order, and I may have missed one or two things out, but and I apologise if I've missed somebody's good news, but just to give an example, we've had very good attendance at the monthly meetings, and we've moved these stadiums all over Scotland, including meetings in Aberdeen and at Inverness. And especially the ones at Aberdeen and Inverness, we had club representation. In Aberdeen we had the health and safety manager. At Inverness we had the chairman?
Chairman was there.
And these guys have been very supportive in getting them involved. We did get a substantial lottery grant, thanks to Neil, who organised that, and that's helped us a lot buying equipment for conference calling. I'll get this right eventually, and obviously to help with some of the travel costs. Recently there's a new group being set up at Ross County, although they're not calling it the Ross County Disabled Sports Association, they call it the Sdsa Disabled Association. And we actually had a meeting there a couple of weeks ago, and we got a committee of 11 on the first meeting, so that was very good. Some other things, we've had, there's always been a little bit of a problem away car parking at Celtic, and the Celtic DSA have helped us sort that out. The Celtic DSA have been involved in changes being made at Celtic Park and have given us access to the drawings and designs. We have a trophy donated in Ross County, a bit more about that later, but we do have it with us. We managed to get a slotting off the ball, which attracted a great deal of interest. In fact, there are quite a few people here today as a result of that programme. We've still got some people that have been in contact that we haven't met up with. So that was helpful. We have quite a large list of patrons, both from the footballing family and other celebrities who have offered to put their name to this organisation and help us where we can, and it seems to be genuine interest of help, and that's very important that we do have some publicity out there with famous people that will support us. We've established contact with Supporters Direct. I don't know if people know a lot about Supporters Direct, but it does seem to have the backing of the Scottish Government as the group involved in improving supporters, not improving supporters, but representing supporters in Scotland, and that's helpful. And as well as that, we've got contacts with the Scottish Government now through the Sports Department, so that's been helpful as well. Contact with the Rec Society, who does the many grounds in Scotland, the commentary for visually impaired. In fact, their AGM is today in Glasgow, and we would have gone along to that, but we'll pick that up later. Even there was a problem recently about Hibernian support was not allowed access into the semi-final against Falkirk. The gentleman in question has Huntington's disease. From that problem, we've got involved with the Scottish Huntington's Association, who are trying to contact all the members to see if other people go along to football to make sure that type of problem doesn't happen again. And we had a very interesting meeting with the SFA in Hampden Parliament about that problem, and it certainly made them aware that this shouldn't happen again. So something good came from that. We've also seen, and one thing I'd encourage in other grounds is a lot of my own club, we have the first disabled rest area, which is very helpful for ambulant disabled fans. That's been installed, and that's very popular in England, so that's been a success. And last but not least is networking of disabled fans. Often when I go to all the Hearts home and away games, I know it's a big burden that, but go every home and away game, but you meet other people from the disabled groups, and they always help you out, direct you where you can park your car, and vice versa. And that's been a big success in getting disabled fans talking to the other disabled fans and their personal assistants from other clubs to make sure that their day at the game, especially the away game, is made suitable. One of the things that I thought was a great example of this is when Hearts were away to Liverpool in the Europa League. Just due to circumstances, there were 2 extra wheelchair tickets, and I emailed everybody, and Cheryl and her family from Dundee, and Sharon and John from, just went from Motherwell, went to the Liverpool game to have the experience with the Liverpool, and that was great, that other people could get that opportunity of going to games. As we move forward into this season, I'm sure we'll still make progress and see improvements for disabled fans, and as I say, even little things can make a difference. But I think that there's 3 points that I just want to finish up on and need to focus on, and that is this group is got, and the local groups have got to be what was described as pan-disability. The international sign for disabled is a wheelchair sign, and that tends to be what's regarded, as the disabled fans area as the wheelchair area. But we need to make sure that ambulant disabled, whether they have a mobility problem or a certain medical condition are involved as well. People with learning difficulties, people with hard of hearing and visually impaired. We must get everybody involved as well. And I, would like to see, for example, that every ground in Scotland, that, there's commentary for visually impaired both home and away fans. And we must always remember the personal assistants. They're equally as important. They play a big part, and we want to get them involved. So sometimes when we see I maybe meet 3 or 4 disabled fans, there's only 4 of us, there's 8 of you, because the personal assistants are a key part of this as well. And they always have your interest, the disabled person's interest at heart, so it's key that they're involved as well. The next page in the package is a summary of the financial situation, and I'll pass to Neil, who will talk.
Unexpected pleasure, thank you. The income we got, we were fortunate enough to get money from Awards for All Scotland, which was £5,610. As Keith mentioned, Ross County kindly gave us a donation as well. Expenditure, a lot of it's been travel. Now, if we add up the 3 amounts paid on travel, it's over £1,000, which seems a lot, but I can assure you that 4,000 miles were travelled by various people. For instance, John and Sharon McCaskie went to absolutely every meeting, Inverness, Ross County, the lot. Keith likewise. So I think it's only fair that that is reimbursed. It's not reimbursed at the full RAC rate, but reimbursed at a realistic and fair rate, we think. Some minor costs with the Sdsa phone, although I must admit I use my own one for this because I find messaging on the Sdsa phone a bit of a pain. Room hire, we've not had much cost on room hire so far, but we had a fair budget for it when we applied for the grant. It's cost us a few £100 for today, but we think it's money well spent. Stationery, another minor item. We felt we needed some IT equipment, which will be, I think, be valuable as we grow. So that consists of a laptop and speakers primarily, which will enable us to get people to Skype in. Whatever that means, I'm no IT expert, as you probably all know by now. We're getting the website developed. Jim Convey over there from Ladder IT, there's a wee advert for you, Jim, has been very helpful in getting that up and running, and to help Walter Dodds, who really got things started in the first place. And we've had some costs for stationery, printing, etc. Below it shows the budget, the bottom left-hand column. That was the budget we supplied to the lottery people to justify the grant. Now there's a couple of items at the bottom. DVD, in fact, we're having a filming done of this, so that's on track. The one thing that we haven't done is bought a minibus. Now, I've got to admit I was being a little bit creative when I put that in the first place. But we wanted to get as much money as we could, be realistic and do something for travel. I then got told when I discussed it with them a couple of months ago, oh, you couldn't have claimed for a used minibus anyway, so just as well we haven't spent that money. We are going to have a meeting, we hope, with the lottery people. So we've not been throwing money away, and we're in fact in many ways fairly close to a lot of the items on the budget. And as you can see further down, the esteemed Sandy Thompson has audited the accounts and checked all the paperwork. So I'll rattle through that very quickly. Any questions on that?
So you can confirm for or you can not confirm, but comment on everything's looking in order to yourself.
Yeah, I just commend the Treasurer for his prudent approach to the finances within the association. Every penny is accounted for, and no extravagance anywhere to be seen.
Apart from the £10 I'll give you afterwards.
Well, that's in next year's accounts, and somebody else will have next year.
Okay, moving swiftly on to alterating the Constitution. Now this one, the normal practice is to look at changes and get them out well in advance. Now I've gone through that as quick as I can, and that's the main changes. There are many other changes when I looked at it. I took me for hours typing it, but I do believe these changes just tidy up a few things, especially the membership. And if you're okay with that, we'll make the Constitution including these changes, and then we'll pass it over to a group of 3 people to go into it in a lot of detail. In terms of the 3 people who go into a lot of detail, I asked Sandy if he would chair that group of 3 because of his experience in dealing with this type of things. I actually think he's not here today, but I think Peter Joyce of the Celtic Sdsa has a lot of knowledge in that area, and he would be helpful. I haven't asked him yet, and I need one other person, but we'll come to that later. So unless anybody, not trying to railroad this through, but if you have any questions, please ask. But what's suggested is everybody feel okay with that? Right, election and office bearers and committee. Again, you know, next year, all of that will come out in advance because we now have held an AGM and we have a constitution, so we've got to do things exactly as per the constitution next season. Both myself and Sandy are quite happy to continue as chairman and vice chairman. We haven't had anybody else nominated unless someone is going to come forward on the day, but we're quite happy to continue unless anyone's otherwise minded. But we should actually have a proposer and a seconder for both positions. So, now when we depends on it. So,
I'll take over in the first part. Can I have a nomination for the chairman? Go a nomination for the continue with Keith as chairman.
thank you very much. So that's Celtic and Kilmarnock. No, it's Hibs that they vote for me. If we could have a proposer and a seconder that Neil takes over at Dundee and St Johnstone's.
All the votes from those.
It's still no votes. So that's great, and we've got a good, I think we've only got one club represented. It's not that's a problem, but that's good that we've got a variety of clubs involved. Good.